Well, in British Columbia, it may be easier to learn how to snort cocaine or use a crack pipe than it is to, I don't know, learn how to drive stick. That's because on the taxpayer's dime, so-called harm reduction vending machines have been sported outside at least 3 hospitals in the province. Now there's only 2 that has it, but most British Columbians, Canadians, and even international people were unaware until a MLA candidate with the Conservative Party of British Columbia released a video that's since gone viral of her using the machine. I'm Drea Humphrey, standing outside of a Conservative Party event where that candidate is inside to bring you more on this story. Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, and that's right, you heard me correctly. Under the NDP government in British Columbia, harm reduction vending machines that are giving out free crack pipes and, even worse, instructing users as well on how to snort cocaine is actually being available in multiple hospitals.
This video is for people who snort drugs and for service providers, to walk through the basic steps for how to snort drugs as safely as possible.
Apparently, these machines were approved by David Eby, the premier of the province, in October of last year. But it wasn't until MLA candidate for the Conservative Party of British Columbia, Gwen O'Mahoney, released this video that most were aware of them.
Let's go get a free crack pipe and cocaine smoking kit.
Go.
So now we can learn how to snort cocaine with this informational video right here. So I'm outside the Nanaimo hospital, and I was able to get a crack inhalation kit and a cocaine snorting kit. Unfortunately, the crack pipes were out, which is no surprise because crack pipes can be traded for drugs. All of these items you can get for free at a vending machine located just directly over there outside of the Nanaimo hospital emergency room.
It's quite shocking. So naturally, I reached out to O'Mahoney to see if she'd do an interview about how she became aware of this and what her party is going to do to stand against the oh-so-progressive harm reduction agenda. And it just so happened she happened to be in the Greater Vancouver in Chilliwack doing a meet and greet with 2 of the candidates in the Chilliwack riding. That is Aliyah Warbus and school trustee for Chilliwack, Heather Moss. I'm going to grab Gwen aside to talk more about the vending machine, and then I'm going to talk to the candidates as well to get their opinion.
I lost my sister a month and a half ago to the opioid epidemic. I want people to be clean. I didn't want my sister to be handed drugs endlessly, to have somebody pat her on the hand and say, hey, that's okay, you've got a disease, it's okay. She died with a cocktail of drugs in her system, both street drugs and prescription drugs. This is where we're at. This is the way that the party is handling addiction. They are keeping people in a cycle of addiction. It's called enabling.
Yeah, I put that video out on X and I thought, well, maybe it'll get 1,000 views, maybe 10,000, and it just exploded.
Now, David Eby gave the okay for these machines last October. What caused you to go out just now and do that video? Did it just get brought to your attention, or has this been a lingering concern?
Well, I had heard about, a number of policies, of course, on the front when it comes to the opioid crisis. And addictions care. And in fact, that was one of the reasons why I eventually left the party and joined up with John Rustad and said, this is enough. But I have family members in Campbell River who'd mentioned seeing these vending machines in the Campbell River Hospital. And of course, I'm the candidate in Nanaimo, Lanceville. So I took a drive down and saw it with my own eyes.
What was the most shocking part for you when you actually went up to the machine and pressed the buttons?
Well, the most shocking part is a location.
Yeah.
You know, it's right outside the hospital where anybody can access it, right where people actually go to take a smoking break, and right around the corner from the, you know, entrance to the emergency room. So that's the first shocking little thing that you notice when you look at the vending machine. The other thing is just how accessible it is. It's just very easy. It's a touch screen. It's very slick, high end, like a real, you know, sophisticated piece of machinery. And seeing the image of the crack pipe for the first time when you select that home button, it's just it just fills you with this sense of sadness. Actually, you know, like this is where we are. And then after that, you realize that they've got instructional videos on how to use drugs.
An instructional video has this eerie feeling of almost like grooming people to use drugs. That's a feeling that is attached to it. What is this doing here? Why is this video here? And then there's the money that was put into that. We were discussing it before the event today. Doing animation and putting videos together, it's a lot of money.
The whole thing is overwhelming, actually.
That last part was the most shocking to me. And I know you've been open about family that you have that struggles with addiction. I have that in my family as well. And I couldn't help but think of how many emergency situations are overdoses. You have someone who maybe slips, goes to the ER, and they have to walk out past this machine saying, here's your free crack pipe. Now, this machine was brought in under the guise of giving out naloxone kits. I see a similar one is in Winnipeg where they were saying we're going to give water and socks. Nobody would have argued about that. But it's almost like you give an inch, they take a mile with this whole harm reduction thing. In your area on the island, Nanaimo has a big issue with drug use. Of course, Port Alberni and even Chilliwack where we are now. What do you think is the solution? If it's not this progressive harm reduction, what is it based on the Conservatives?
Well, I think we need to point out, you're correct, that there isn't a community in BC that hasn't been impacted by this addiction crisis, and it's only getting worse. So I think we need to be driven by data and common sense. So we know that this isn't working because no matter how far that the NDP government goes with harm reduction, the issue just is ballooning and getting worse and worse. I would like to see money put into treatment. I mean, as a family member of multiple people who've wrestled with addiction, treatment is the best hope for somebody. And I don't want to give up on that. I believe people can get treatment, and I believe people can break free from this addiction.
Well, after you and the leader of your party, John Rustad, came together and, opposed those machines in a statement, we see the Premier, David Eby, now going, hey, this needs to be reviewed. I don't know if that's connected to the upcoming election.
I think that where there are concerns that have been raised, it's about access to different types of paraphernalia that is disconnected from contacting a medical health professional or a trained person working in a facility that can provide that support. And that's what I've asked the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction to have a look at.
Was that surprising? Do you think that he knew more about the machines than he's letting off?
I think the fact that the video just went so viral. I mean, last time I looked at it, we were close to 1 million views just on my tweet, and then some influencers, retweeted it on X. I think when you see what the general public is saying, I mean, really, I think Eby had no choice but to just say, hey, we're going to have to review this, because the sensibility of people is really looking at this and saying, no, this is ridiculous. What a waste, right? I mean, let's think about this. I've got a relative right now, a young nephew who's in treatment, okay? The treatment center he's in, they have to do bake sales. They've got a farm, and they, make pickles, and they're selling pickles because they can't afford it, because they don't have enough funding. And here we are throwing money away at these vending machines. Yeah. Redirect it into treatment.
Well, our Minister of Addictions is currently doing that review. We know at least 3 of these vending machines have been at British Columbian hospitals. 1 was removed. But Jennifer Wyside, the Minister of Addictions, is saying that she thinks British Columbians understand that this type of thing is needed. I guess we'll find out at the polls in some way if she's correct.
I was absolutely feeling shock and disappointment in the pit of my stomach. I have a lot of close family members who not only have struggled with drug addiction, but who've lost their life to drug addiction. And to me, destigmatizing drugs in this way is not helping anybody. And handing out crack pipes to absolutely anyone without any restrictions or supervision is not going to make the problem go away. And it's not a part of what harm reduction actually started out to be. So I'm a little in, I guess, awe right now, but at the same time, I'm pretty sad and disappointed.
Well, I asked Miss O'Mahoney her opinion on what should be done. What is the Conservative Party going to do that's different in this area? Chilliwack, for example, has a big addiction problem. What do you think should happen?
One of the ideas and one of the principles that I have stood by is that we do not need to destigmatize drug use. We don't need to make it okay for people to use drugs. That's not going to help the problem at all. And we need more wraparound services. We need to make it easier for people to access help on the day that they want help. We should not have so many hoops for them to jump through when people are suffering, they want help and need help now. Let's find ways. Let's find outreach workers. Let's find facilities. Let's fund them so that people can get help when they need it and get the services and get the recovery that they need quicker.
Well, it's the kind of thing that sort of leaves you speechless. You wonder if we're living in some kind of dystopian world where children are playing in the background and you can hear them, their voices, and at the same time, here's a machine that tells you how to snort cocaine, and here, get a crack pipe, even though they were out.
I just want to add something for the viewers because we didn't talk about this with Gwen, but you can see a comment here underneath by another journalist where this journalist is claiming that staff actually in the hospital said that they were sort of being almost harassed for not having the crack pipes in the machine. What was the most shocking thing in addition to it just being dystopian? What really irked you?
Well, I think it's the normalization of this whole thing. Drug addiction is terrible. And we don't want this for anybody. And I mean, all these people that are addicted, they're somebody's brother, uncle, father, son, and it's a human tragedy. And for this to be normalized for everybody and for children as well, it's abhorrent. I just think it's abhorrent.
BC is no doubt in an overdose crisis. This is going to be a hot topic of the debate coming up with the election. A lot of people watching probably say, yeah, that's too far for sure, those vending machines. But what do you think needs to be done? If this whole progressive harm reduction, safer supply stuff isn't working, what will work?
Well, I think, what we've done essentially is we've turned ourselves as in society and government into codependent enablers. And, even Alcoholics Anonymous says, don't be a codependent, don't be an enabler, because that means you're just as much of a part of the problem as the person doing the drugs or drinking the alcohol. And so really what this is doing is enabling drug addicts to just keep on being drug addicts, as opposed to getting them treatment and, building more centers rather than the housing issue. It's more a treatment center than anything else.
Well, we saw that the Conservative Party has consistently been against this sort of agenda that the BC NDP was pushing, even though Premier David Eby is backpedaling now. I want to end on a clip from another one of your colleagues, Mike Harris, who is the candidate for Langford over on the island, as another example of how out of control it is. He's talking about how his mother is one of the elderly people who's now going to be trapped with drug users actively using in care homes.
I'm standing in front of the Summit in Victoria. It's a long-term care facility that My mom has Alzheimer's and she's in here. 2 days ago, the Times columnist just put out an article regarding people openly smoking meth in the hallway and in their rooms and exposing not only the other patients, but the healthcare workers. So we have more of the NDP rhetoric. This has just got to stop. We can't keep going this way. People are in jeopardy, and this program that they have in place inside the summit just doesn't make sense. Let's make an end to it. October 19th, let's vote for the Conservative Party of BC, Mike Harrison, Langford, and let's stop the craziness that the NDP is doing out there with everything that they're doing.
At Rebel News, we've been telling you the other side of the story of BC's harm reduction agenda that's been doing more harm than good from the beginning. If you believe that our cities need to be fixed, go to our special website called fixourcities.com and sign and share our petition today. And if you appreciate our boots on the ground reports just like this, you can donate to help keep them possible while you're there.